Remember when Donald Trump promised that his wife Melania would have a news conference to explain her immigration history? He promised that the news conference would be within 2 weeks, and he made that promise 5 weeks ago. Here's what he said.
Oh, and by the way, they said my wife Melania might have come in illegally. Can you believe that one? No. They said, headlines, maybe she came in illegally, maybe. Let me tell you one thing. She has got it so documented, so she's going to have a little news conference over the next couple of weeks. That's good. That's good. I love it. I love it.
Well, it turns out instead of having a press conference, Melania Trump met privately with an immigration lawyer here in New York, Michael Wildes, whose law firm has the distinction of having represented John Lennon on his immigration problems with the United States. It was actually Mr. Wildes' father, Leon Wildes, who represented John Lennon. Michael Wildes has never before served as Melania Trump's immigration lawyer, but he said today, I have represented several companies which are or have been owned by Mr. Donald J. Trump, including Trump Models and the Miss Universe organization. He said that in that letter that Melania Trump tweeted today, in that letter, Mr. Wildes addresses the most contentious point in Melania Trump's story. He says, contrary to published reports, Mrs. Trump never worked in the United States in 1995 because she was never in the United States in 1995. This is a very important point because when these pictures of Melania Trump were first published in the New York Post, the Post reported that the photographs were taken in New York in 1995 and appeared in a magazine published in February of 1996. The former editor of that magazine has now changed his story and moved those dates 1 year forward. He now says the photographs were taken in 1996 for publication in February of 1997, and Attorney Wildes says that his review of the documentation indicates that Melania Trump, quote, her first entry to the United States was on August 27th, 1996, pursuant to a B-1, B-2 visitor visa. Shortly thereafter, on October 18th, 1996, the U.S. Embassy in Slovenia issued Mrs. Trump her first H-1B visa, a category which authorizes employment as a model in the United States. And so, if these photographs were taken after October 18th, 1996, that would mean Melania Trump was working legally in the United States when the photographs were taken. If they were taken a year earlier, according to Mr. Wildes' findings, she would have been working illegally because she did not obtain legal permission to work in the United States until October 18th, 1996. And so Donald Trump's promise 5 weeks ago of a news conference by Melania Trump within 2 weeks turned into a tweet and a letter. And the closest we're ever going to get to that promised Melania Trump press conference is my discussion right now with our next guest, the lawyer who wrote that letter today for Melania Trump. Joining us now, attorney Michael Wildes. And Michael, during the commercial break, you mentioned a little political fact to me. You've decided who you're voting for.
Before I get to that, I just want to thank you for having me. Regards from Dad.
I love your father.
His book came out, and he has a special one for you.
So your vote for president will be?
Hillary Clinton. I am an ardent Democrat. I'm a former mayor, a former federal prosecutor. Dad started this robust immigration practice in 1960. And it's in the same building that John Lennon used to call on us, and our Imagine is still the hold music.
So I want to get to the letter. It turns on this question of exactly when were those photographs taken. The people who said, the photographer and an editor who had previously said they were taken in 1995 now say it's a year later. If that's true, then there's nothing out there by way of evidence indicating illegal work prior to having permission to work.
2 quick points. First, it was Donald Trump, not Melania Trump, that said there would be a conference.
Yes.
Melania never said that there would be a press conference. It's not that she's hiding.
Right.
Second, had the photographs even been taken on U.S. soil, even on a B-1, B-2 visa, and then shown in a foreign periodical, it would not be a breach of that visa. A hallmark case was one that my dad handled in 1966 called the Matter of Hero, that allows for de minimis acts that may look like work that are really business in nature.
But
the photos were taken after she already had a work visa, rendering the whole issue moot.
Have you seen with your own eyes every document that's referred to in your letter?
Yes.
And so did you see the very first stamp on her passport entering the country?
Not only did I see that stamp, I wanted to see all the approval notices. I wanted to see the government's indicia. I'm a former prosecutor, so I know the ink.
Any reason why those weren't released? Copies of those weren't released?
It's a personal choice.
Did you advocate it? Did you say you should release these? That's the only way to prove it?
This, in my opinion, is a trumped up, you'll forgive the word, controversy, because she didn't work out of turn illegally.
No, I understand. I'm just
and if
asking
she was
you,
perfectly, let me just answer your question. If she was perfectly transparent about the process, then there's no need for her to show the documents. It's proprietarial. If there was some question, I would understand the release.
Here's what we're left with. The world has to believe your letter with no documentation. The documentation doesn't leave you out there as what they have to believe. So there's not. Is there going to be any documentation at any point?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And truth be told,
no news conference.
And I don't know that it's necessary. After this evening, when the photographer came out and said the pictures were taken after she had her work visas, it rendered the whole issue moot. She had visitors' visas that she respected. She had 5 H-1B work visas that she respected. She applied for a green card as an extraordinary ability model. She had aspired and attained that achievement on her own, and then went for citizenship, vetted it every time. Now, there are very strict reciprocity rules at the American Embassy in Slovenia. So it looked like she was coming in frequently, but the truth is a very well-oiled, poised model is going to have as many visas as possible so that they can dart to France, to Italy, to the United States. And on occasion, there were visas she never used. So I was looking not only for the indicia, but I was looking for the absence of stamps also.
You're pretty certain this is all we're ever going to get. There'll never be an actual document to back up anything that's said in the letter.
I hate to say it, and I say this as a Democrat, there is no issue here. If there was an issue, I don't know that I would be here in all truth, because...
Well, Michael, it's the reason we release tax returns. We release tax returns because we want to see the actual documents. So the tax return equivalent here would be those documents.
Fair game for the president, the candidate, but for the wife who's done nothing wrong to then have to reach in and show government documents. She's been vetted by the government on 12 different occasions.
For the candidate who attacks people for doing anything that isn't flawlessly within immigration law, this is a very serious issue. And Michael, you represent Trump models. They are now engaged in legal actions against them for illegally employing models, bringing them into the country. I want to put up a picture of Alexia Palmer, who came from Jamaica, and she has documentation indicating that she was working in the United States for the Trump modeling agency before she was legally allowed to work in the country. And she and other models say the Trump modeling agency was engaged in that practice repeatedly.
The matter is in litigation, but despite that, I'm going to exercise a prerogative. There are governing principles on the H-1B3 visa versus the O visa, and it's out of sync in many ways with the culture of agencies and models working based on what it is that they produce. There is litigation here. There was an aspirational amount that was placed on forms, and the young lady didn't read it.
Immigration experts say that the forms as filled out by the Trump company were fraudulent. They said that they promised she would be paid $45,000. She was in fact not paid that amount, and it is a violation of law to apply for visas, putting in an amount of money that the employer then does not pay.
You have several metrics at play. The Labor Department and the Immigration, their action was thrown out of court, and they're now taking issue at the Labor Department. And the truth be told, if they have to make good on it, they'll make good on it. They were transparent about everything from the get-go, and there's no impropriety as far as I see, because I work diligently under the efficacy and the legacy of my dad. In all truth, we won't, Democrat or Republican, cross any lines.
Another lawyer representing the Trump agency in this case said, yeah, we should have said that this was estimated income instead of promised
aspirational
income. Yeah. But that's not what the immigration law allows.
There's no way you can do one visa or the other.
But isn't this like saying, Michael, the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit is too low for this road, I want to go at 75?
Compliance. This family, this company believes in compliance. No matter how we don't want to hear it, they're always compliant. If somebody has an issue, it'll be vetted in a court properly.
Michael Wildes, Hillary Clinton supporter and Melania Trump supporter, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Up next.